It's a pleasure to have you join us on the show once again. And on our headlines today, Tinubu vows governments will not surrender to terrorists. In a major development, security crisis deepens ahead of 2027 elections. This and many more after this break. Joining us now to break down these headlines are two political analysts, Vincent Okoro and Emerald Nufi. It's a pleasure to have you join us, Vincent.
Thank you, Kafitoni, for having me.
Again. And it's a pleasure to have you join us, Emerald.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, everyone.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration say that they will not surrender to the terrorists. Can you enlighten us more on this new development and statement from the government?
Yeah, if going back to when this statement was made by Judge Akume, I think he attended a program. He represented the president in one of the Christian gathering in Abuja, and that was on Democracy Day. And the interesting part of that program, it tagged in God we hope. Now I want to circle a little bit around there. When you talk about in God we hope as a government, what are you expecting from the citizen? The citizen now look up to a government, all right, that is supposed to protect, that is supposed to give us that sense of security that we need in a country. Now you're coming to say that we will not surrender to terrorists, and then you are asking us to hope. What exactly do you mean? Okay, are you asking us to hope on processes that are not working? Are you asking us to hope on systems that are not properly defined? Now, when you talk about this terrorist movement and their processes, it's happening on a consistent basis. 603 students, pupils, and teachers were abducted recently. Up till today, nothing has been heard. Nobody has been released. In fact, I think few days ago, unfortunately, one of those babies died. That child should not be anything less than 4 years, between 3 and 4 years. And you're just telling us cheap talk. We will not surrender. Nobody's talking about you surrendering to any group, to bandits and all of that. We're talking about making sure that you don't even surrender in the first place, making sure that lives are not surrendered in the first place. This issue is certainly going to affect every of the promises made, because something as strong as security is going to affect the election that is coming up.
Yeah.
So if you say we're not surrendering, what exactly do you have planned out? If voters cannot vote during the election on that day, INEC cannot send out resources or something in these areas, then the election will be inconclusive. What promises, what are the machineries, what are the systems that are on ground to make sure that, yes, your statement is really credible, we will not surrender to terrorists? So we need answers to that as well.
Thank you so much, Emerald, for that
You're welcome,
analysis. All right, over to you, Vincent. You've just been smiling, and I'm wondering why you're smiling. If it's based on her analysis that you're smiling, okay. So the government stated that no negotiation, no mercy. How realistic is this their stance based on the complex insecurity issues that we are facing in Nigeria? And then I've been pounding on this particular question. I don't know, maybe you have the answer to that question. The former Minister of Power, Adela Bozam's sister, was actually kidnapped sometime last week, and she was recently rescued as well. She was rescued. So how come she's been able to be rescued? They've been able to rescue her, and others, the school children, their teachers, and so many other victims are still in captivity. If they can release a government or rescue a government official's relative.
Well, you actually more or less accused me of smiling while we are talking about insecurity in Nigeria. you know, I'm just, the smile is just like a recovery, because for the first time over the night I had to cry. Yes.
Oh.
Yes, an incident of kidnapping in Edo State that came to a conclusion. Now, the young lady was narrating how she watched the kidnappers shot at her mother. And then there's a young boy who is 15 years old. You know, they took them into the forest. And then in the course of negotiation, they are responded that their own people had to provide 30 million naira amidst the difficult economic situation and other requirements that the kidnappers demanded. After these things were met, after these demands were met, they now refused to release them and instead went on to demand over 300 million. Now, in the course of, you people said we should provide this, which we have done. Why this again? They carried our mother, carried another mother, that is our own mother. Then there were other victims that, it was a family by family kidnapping that happened in the community. So they were all taken to the forest. So the kidnappers took our mother, separated the mother of another set of victims, and then carried a boy 15 years old along with them to a stone throw where they could see them. That is the other kidnapped victim that the remaining could see. So they shot the mother right in her presence, shot the other mother right in the presence of everyone, including our own relatives. Then they returned the boy and told the boy that God saved you today, that tomorrow you will not be saved. And the following day, the young boy, 15 years old, was equally taken out. So, and yesterday, for the first time, I wept uncontrollably over the night. And that's the reason why, when, I'm coming across some talks that I can refer to as cheap talk, I don't know why I will have to be smiling while we are doing the analysis. Because I just assume that, we are not even informed enough as far as these issues of insecurity is concerned. Now you are talking about the sister or the doctor of Adelabo and other relatives that were released amidst other citizens across the country that are in captivity. That why is it that the government cannot rescue them? And then why is the government saying that they are not going to surrender to insecurity and what have you? To me, those are laughable rhetorics. Because I know that when I was in school, 49 out of 100 is fail mark. And then you are talking about 1 out of 100. Then on the basis of that, possibly, you are priding that you are not surrendering to insecurity. We were in this country when the United States of America came out to list Nigeria as a country of particular concern. They swung into action, and in a fortnight after that pronouncement, a terrorist enclave in Sokoto, if I'm not mistaken, that Sokoto or Kebbi, was leveled completely. That is a government that is talking and people listening. As our government ever try to make the citizens understand that when they are talking, they should be taken seriously? Like my co-panelist just said here, we are tired of talk today, talk tomorrow, talk the next day. What are the machineries that the government have put in place? And these machineries, are they being oiled to move into action? For us to now begin to take what they are telling us seriously. Because if the government had come out to tell us that we have been able to identify the part of that particular local government where these people are, and the military, the Air Force are actually taking practical steps to see. You don't need to tell the world exactly what you are trying to do.
Yeah.
Of course, you announce when the result is out. Then all you can come to tell us is that we are not going to surrender to insecurity. To me, that is just a talk that lacks sensitivity. If our government is sensitive enough, then they should not be telling us rhetorics Every day you fill the pages of newspaper with write-ups about not about what you are doing, but just more or less like a fulfillment of righteousness. And at this time, Nigerians don't need that, especially heading to 2027. I felt very, very unsafe over the night, heading to this morning. And of course, insecurity can meet us anywhere. And this is the reason why the government need to do what is required of them, especially when it comes to their oath of office is concerned.
Thank you so much.
Excuse me, sorry, Cassie. Now, from what he said, what you said earlier, you actually asked the question that how come this particular person
was able
to be rescued. So now the question is there any particular interest on a particular character in the society?
Of course, with respect to that particular question, because the concern that I have personally, the hunger that is in me, did not actually permit me to start looking at, you have a particular individual connected to government in one way or the other, as a relative or a government appointee, being rescued. To me, that does not have anything to the fight against insecurity. So I find it difficult to sit down here and start analyzing the fact that why was she rescued and others were not rescued. Of course, they can make excuses for you that in Borno State, over the weekend, 614 kidnapped victims were returned. So that is why, to me, that is not our bone of contention. Because are you going to tell me that we should keep on celebrating when they are able to release those that are their own? And we also need to understand that there are propaganda about some of these issues of insecurity. It is here in Nigeria, we see where people even kidnap themselves. So, if we are to analyze this, we don't want to go in the route whereby these persons that have just been released that are linked to Delabod, the former Minister of Power, were actually something to just make up. That yes, actually it's not only the citizens of this country that are passing through the consequences of insecurity. So that's one of the ways that I can see that.
Okay, so Emerald, I was coming to you on our second headlines as security crisis has actually deepened ahead of the 2027 general election, and then opposition parties are saying that due to this insecurity issues, that a lot of Northerners, there will be vote disenchantments in the Northwest ahead of the 2027 election. And then INEC are saying that the election will not be postponed, that it will still be as scheduled. That's the presidential election, and then the local government, the council election, it will still be as scheduled. So how confident is this INEC on this their election must hold, judging by the deepening insecurity that is that's eating almost half of Nigeria?
Yeah, I think I actually mentioned something like that earlier on. Now, it's very obvious. I mean, it's a question that a layman on the road can answer. You are talking about elections that a particular days must be upheld and it will not be moved and everything. Will you be able to see yourself in danger and you still go ahead to vote? This is where the problem really is, and this is where the politics is going to be affected. Now, if there are issues that the insecurity issues cannot be resolved, people will not be able to come out to vote. Areas that were the recorded issues of kidnapping have been going on and on for a while. People will not be able to vote. Even INEC officials, because this thing, just like I said, is just cheap talks. You come on screen and begin to talk and blah, blah, blah and everything. But in the real sense of it, there are staff or employees that will be sent to these areas to go conduct elections? Would they be safe? Would they be okay? Would they even agree to go? So it's not about the days or being static, or it must be this, or the days cannot be moved and all of that. It's about the fact that people are also conscious. Okay, people are conscious of their safety. They won't be able to go out to vote if they are not sure about the day or whatever, because this thing can happen at any time. It happens anytime. You won't even know what it is. We've talked about some officials being employed, 1,000 forest guard being employed. Yeah. How is that going to solve anything? We have not even heard any report. They have arrested anything, nothing, you know, this is what we have gone so far. Everything is we're doing, the government is doing everything possible to bring them to book.
Emirad, I would like to cut you a little because
Go ahead.
I'm one that believe that we need to put things in the right perspective so that we don't give credit to the various ways in which the government tries to shortchange us. Why am I saying this? We have heard of kidnappers entering religion houses and catching people away. We have heard of kidnappers, herdsmen, going into a market square, catching people away. We have heard of them going to schools. You know what happened there? Now, how many times have you heard that our public officials have been elected and on that election ground, kidnappers came to carry them? I don't know if you have heard of that, Kasitoni. Because I've never seen where, you know, election to bring the so-called leaders to power and that is disrupted by bandits, disrupted by kidnappers, disrupted by Boko Haram and what have you. I've never heard of that, which actually throws a political coloration to this issue of insecurity. Are we having a situation where those who are in support of this government are going to be having a field day in the election, and why those who are actually genuinely concerned go into hiding, such that at the end of the day, those who insecurity is serving will have a field day and they continue to perpetrate themselves in power? So Nigerians need to be sensitive to this. In 2015, all we had was that 12 local governments in Borno, 10 local governments in Zamfara, we have been taken over by insecurity, and elections still held in those local governments across the north. What evidence do we have that actually the insecurity in those states were decisively dealt with by the Jonathan administration that actually enabled election to go on in those states? Because I'm one that doubted that report, that it is because of the action of the government that made insecurity to be pushed back. Then thereafter, what happened? Then the other way to look at it is that we have never actually heard that a market or a church is being secured by our armed forces, and these people with their face covered came to cut people away. We never heard of that. Because you know that there is no police unit that is not manned by police, DSS and what have you during election day. So that is enough for this insecurity to be pushed back, for election to take place. And of course we continue to have our leaders, especially as we are crying that we no longer need the kind of leaders that have been ruling us since 1999. So it's not issue of the election day, if you ask me, because we are going to have all our security men of different colors in every corner, in every polling unit, in every street, in every road. There is going to be restriction of movement, such that if I'm coming with the motorbike they normally use, of course they are going to be stopped. So the kidnappers themselves, even though they have the intention to come out on that day, they know that today is not our market day. So I just wanted to put that in.
So in other words, INEC insisting that they will not postpone the election, they actually...
Of course, they know what they are doing. They know that now when INEC is telling Nigerians that the election is not going to be postponed, they will tell you that it is because the government is doing the needful to make sure the election days are free from insecurity issues. But the truth is that it is not even the action of the government. It's a natural process that on the day security men are going to be on ground. INEC knows this. So coming to tell you just an appeal to our sensationalism that okay, on the day of the election is going to be postponed. As far as security is concerned, the government is on top of the game. That is all pure ballot talk, if you ask me.
All right, thank you so much, Vincent. Lastly, on this segment, before we actually leave, Akpabio in his statement, as the Senate President in his statement, said that the opposition parties, he alleged that the opposition parties are the one actually fueling this insecurity. Does he have any evidence to actually back up his allegations?
Well, I think I should be asking him the same question. If you have evidence to back up the allegation, because I don't see how you'll be in government. You are the Senate President, for crying out loud. You have everyday security votes are coming out from the Senate floor for the executive to approve and do the needful. Every day we have budgets of billions of naira, hundreds of billions being approved of the various security arms of the country. And then you should be asking for accountability, and not for you to come to tell us that opposition that is not even up to a quarter of the total government machinery are the ones sponsoring the security across the country. So I believe that it should come to tell us and tell the world how that is the case.
Thank you so much, Vincent. And we've come to the end of the show, State of the Matters. Your last word to our viewers.
Well, 2027 is coming, and we have no option than to be optimistic that the days of Pharaoh caging the people of Israel, will become a thing of the past. Of course, before 2027 and after 2027.
Thank you so much, Vincent. Emerald.
Yes, we hope for the best, and for the sake of a future, for the sake of posterity, let the best win.
All right, let the best win. And to you, our viewers, for tuning in, and do well to have a beautiful day. It's a bye for now.